Hey everybody, welcome back to Reloaded, and today we're going to talk about the value, the importance, and the practicality of actually having a social media content calendar. Now, if there are 10 people watching this video, at least half of them, when I say this and they start seeing what's up on the screen, they're like, oh no, I don't have any time to do that stuff. I'm just so busy, and I can't get organized. Gary, you don't understand, I'm ADHD, and blah, 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 blah. Okay? Now, the other 5 are smart enough to go, dude, I may be all those things, but I need to organize what I'm doing. And so this is the value of having a social media content calendar. We've spent the last few modules talking about content, who our audience is, what we know, how to answer questions and solve problems. But now that we know that, I think we need to be systematic about how we post our content. In other words, as I've said in many of the other modules, we have to be intentional. We actually have to think about, and dare I say schedule, what we're going to be doing. And that's where a social media content calendar comes in handy. Now, I'm using a raw template here, and I will include this in the lesson notes. You can customize this on Google Sheets any way you want to. I'm using a general breakdown to talk about a couple things all at once here, but you can customize this. And by the way, this is free to use on Google. This isn't the only social media content calendar out there. There are many. If you have a preference of a particular brand or one that you pay for, great. I just wanted to give you a free option that'll get you organized and get you down the road. Now, before we get into this, though, I want to really stress why this is important. First of all, one of the biggest problems that a lot of people have is a lack of consistency in their posts. A lack of consistency both in they're not doing it on a regular basis at some kind of cadence that their audience can recognize, but they're also not consistent in messaging. We talked about this about 3 videos ago. So if you may post every day, but you're totally off message half the time. You're not having an overall picture that people can look at and go, yep, they do this, this is the service they offer, and this is how they can help me. So you might be doing stuff every day, but you're not consistently on message. Or when you do post, you are consistently on message. The problem is you post every 3 days, and then it's every 5, and then you do it every day for like 10 posts a day, then you disappear for a week. So we got to be both. One, it's going to help you be consistent in every day or whatever your cadence is. It's going to help you and force you to create a cadence of posting on each platform or the platforms that you actually use. But it's also going to help you stay consistent in messaging. The other thing that this does, and this is a big one, is it actually makes you think about your copy. You see here this social copy section. These are the words in the post. The words, the emojis, the whatever. The linkage, whatever you're using. It's actually making you go, wait a minute. Okay, before I just rip something off here, like we go back through what we've already talked about. What's the question I'm answering? What's the problem I'm solving? Who is my audience? Now let me build this for them. Yes, this is more intentional. Yes, it'll take you longer in the beginning, but the results will be well worth it. Okay, so it's not only going to keep you consistent in terms of a cadence, keep you consistent in terms of messaging, but it's also going to keep you consistent and help you to be really intentional about what you're actually posting. The final thing that this is really big on is it's going to challenge you to focus your efforts. This video could easily go over 15 minutes if I'm not careful on this point, because I could rant and rave and preach about this for a long time. One of the challenges in 2020, my friends, is that there's a lot of places for you to post and be active in your business. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, I have featured here, but there's so many other options. TikTok, Pinterest, Snapchat, and on and on and on and on. Just because you can be everywhere doesn't mean you should, and the reality is the more you spread yourself out, especially in the infancy of your business, you are diluting your results every time you do that. You know what I mean by dilution? So if you've got like a glass full of clear water and you start putting in drops of like red food coloring, it starts diluting the clear and things start to sort of become pink, and then they become more red, and then it becomes all red if you keep doing it, and you just dilute all over the place. So we don't want to dilute the strength of your message, and so we want to make sure that you're focused. So the first thing I want you to do when thinking about this calendar is over here, I think you should have only 2 platforms that you're really, really focused on. Okay? You go, well, Gary, what? Now, hold on. Gary, I have like accounts everywhere. Just because you do doesn't mean you should use all of them. I think as a default, I think Facebook has to be one of your areas. And even if Facebook isn't your personal jam, and maybe you don't like Facebook, and maybe you think Zucks is a jerk, and all those things, but everybody's there. Again, choosing platforms is not so much about our preference, but it's about which pond are the most fish in, because you're fishing. You're fishing for leads, you're fishing for clients, you're fishing for distributors, you're fishing for new gym memberships, you're fishing for whatever. You're fishing for new podcast subscribers, you're fishing for new blog subscribers. You're fishing. I need to go where there is the most fish. So I think Facebook is a given. But after that, this is up to you. What you pick as your secondary is where you thrive the most, where you have an audience, or where you think your audience can grow the most. I am not going to give you even my opinions, and I do have opinions of between like Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and Pinterest. Like I have some thoughts on that based on some data, but it's not my business. It's your business, and you know where your jam is. Okay, so you know where you know what you like to use as a consumer. You know where you're the most comfortable. So just pick those two. Okay, other options here. Don't forget, content can also be YouTube. Don't just assume. Remember, YouTube is certainly not a social network proper, but it is the ultimate house of content, right? Another thing that might be over on your left-hand column here would be a blog or your podcast or, again, your YouTube channel. So create this custom to you because, again, you can go in here and you can edit this, guys. It's all editable. So you can go in and change Instagram and make it like, blog. All right, that's fine. And so you can do this as much as you want. Now, the other part of this, and by the way, I'm using a template copy. That's why I said I had to request access to edit. You can edit this version. I've got a copy of it in my Google Docs if you want it. Or you can create your own. The point is more about the philosophy, not the particular cells on the spreadsheet. But I want you to pick two that you're going to focus on. And then we've got to look at creating. We've got our date. We've got the time that we're going to post. This is going to force us to think about, like, when do I post? There is a zillion and one articles online about ideal times of posting based on social media platforms. All that's interesting. It's good to think about. It's good to test and play with. But here's what we know. Your audience, your people that are following you right now, are not the same as the audience in the test case that the site did to talk about when are the best times to post. So your audience is going to wake up and do things at different times than my audience. There are some similarities, but there are also some differences. They're unique. So you got to think about, when am I posting? And when you think about time, think about spread. So am I too stacked up? So do I wake up in the morning when I'm all full of piss and vinegar and I'm like, woo, let's do this thing. And I hammer my wall from 6, 6:30, 6:45, 7, and 7:30, and then I'm vacant until the next day. Maybe you need to spread it out, right? Does this make sense? Okay, and I'm sorry if I said piss and vinegar if that offended anybody. Just what it is. All right, so now that being said, when you go over to content type here, this is important. It's what is the thing that you're going to share on this platform at this time. For those of you that have blogs, and guys, I mentioned this in another video, and I already had some people reaching out to me, and I'm so glad that they did. If you've never considered having a blog, you've never thought about blogging as part of your thing because you think, I'm not a writer. I'm going to encourage you to go into the files section, look at our course called Blog Mastery, because there is still, between video and blogging, those two things build more value on the bridge for people to do business with you, I'm convinced, still in 2020 than anything else. So some of you, I think, have this kind of weird notion that blogging's old school. It's not old school. It's always good because what a blog does is it separates you as an expert versus some hack just posting on Facebook. Are you with me? Okay. Look into Blog Mastery. Very important. All right. So maybe it's you sharing a blog post. Okay. So you're repurposing a blog post. It can be an old blog post. It can be a brand new one that you just wrote. Whatever. Curated content. Remember, you don't just have to share your own stuff. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't. You should take articles, and I show you how to do this in the last module with Google. You should take relevant articles that your audience would get some value out of, that answers questions and solves problems, because if you share value with them, and that's just freemium, and you go, well, now if you're operating in scarcity, here's what you're going to say. I don't want to share other people's content online, Because then my audience can go to their website, click on their links and buy their stuff, and I don't have any, and I'm in the corner and nobody loves me, right? Now, if you're operating in scarcity, that's what you're going to think. But remember, we're painting an overall content picture. And I want to make deposits into my audience every way that I can. I know that there are some people that write in my niche that write really well. Like, I like sharing, like Frank Kern stuff in my particular space. Frank's brilliant. Every now and again, I'll share a Frank Kern, video or something. So you can share curated content. This also keeps your feed alive. It keeps things on your wall. I'm not saying share 9 other people's posts every day, but if you shared 1 or 2 a week, would that be a good thing? Yeah, it'd be great. We talk about an evergreen post. Maybe there's a post that you wrote, and by evergreen, we mean it works no matter what. It works in the winter, it works in the summer, it works in any season, it works in any time in your business. Maybe, and it works for a wider audience. Maybe you sell health and wellness products, a very specific product. But you wrote a blog post, Blog Mastery, have I mentioned that? Maybe you wrote a blog post that was general tips for, 10 solid health and wellness tips for 2020 for any age, any gender, any blah, right? It's just a generic evergreen post that's wide and could help anybody. Think about that. Of course, think about live content. Are you going to go live on Facebook? And friends, you probably should. And, now I would tell you that before you go live, if video makes you twitch, I would get good at static, non-live video first to get comfortable when the red light comes on. And then you can move to live so you're comfortable and your audience looks at you and go, yeah, they got their act together. How would you do that? You'd go through YouTube Mastery. Go to the file section, make sure you do that. And then you've got pure promotion post. Friends, let me remind you of something. And listen, can I do a mea culpa here? Like, I was part of this problem. For a long time in Facebook Mastery, for the longest time, I used to teach 80-20. And it's good and it's solid. 80% content value, etc., 20% promotion. Still a solid idea. But I think in the midst of all this attraction marketing, blather, and everything else, people have become almost secretive about what they're promoting and nobody knows. Like, I know you're in business of something, but I don't know what it is. Remember we talked about that about 3 modules ago? Do not be afraid to regularly have something on your feed where you're promoting what you have. How in the world are we supposed to buy stuff from you if you never tell us what you're selling? Don't be afraid of that, and I think a lot of us are like, we're freaking out because, well, I've seen so-and-so and they spam their wall constantly. Well, you're not spamming. Look, you're creating blog posts and curated content and evergreen blog posts and videos, and promotion is in the mix. It's an ingredient. It's not the whole dish. Don't be afraid to promote. Are you with me? So you're going to set up your time for this channel, your times of that day. This is your date. This is your times. These are the kinds of content. This is not the only kinds of content, though, guys. Like, for some of you, it might be podcast. Whoop, whoop. We love the podcast. For some of you, again, it might be a blog post. For some of you, it might be sharing something off your YouTube channel. Awesome. All right? Any one of those things is great. Your general topic of what it's going to be. What is the copy that you're going to put? These are the words that are on the post. Don't you dare ever just share your blog link and not say something about what it is. But my blog is so amazing, Gary. People will just know. No, they won't. Like, dude, write a copy, tells them what it is and why they should read it. And tell them to read it. Right? And then what's the link? Where are you sending them to? And my goodness, if you're sending them to your own content or you're sending them somewhere to a capture page, an opportunity video, something, you best be tracking them links, my friend. I will post a resource if you want it inside of here, inside the unit, because if you're not tracking, you don't know where they're going. You don't know if anybody's clicking it. You're just posting and going, well, I think I'm making a difference. I don't want to think, I want to know. So we want the data. So does this make sense? And then in the notes category, I've got literally 50 seconds left. In the notes category, make sure that you put come to the end of the day, or maybe that's too much, like maybe every 2 or 3 days, go back and look at what happened with that post. Make some notes. Be like, you know what, this 7 a.m. time slot, I've posted all week and it sucks. That means I need to move it earlier or move it later. Or put some notes on it when you did a goofy off post, like that was a fun Friday, funny video, cat video, meme or something, and it got like 8,000 pieces of engagement. Put a note on there and go, wait a minute, let me think. What time did I do that? What was the platform? What was the content? What did I put in my copy? Success leaves clues. Your success cannot be an accident. It must be intentional. If you want this resource, let me know. I'll put it in the unit. Get to scheduling. What gets scheduled gets done. I'll see you in the next module.